I wonder, have you ever noticed how a single belief can shape an entire life? How an idea, once planted, can grow roots so deep it feels like it's always been there. But isn't it fascinating how the moment you start questioning a belief, it begins to lose its grip? As if just by looking at it closely, you begin to see the cracks. Because beliefs aren't real, they're constructs, they're choices. And I wonder, have you ever considered how many of your beliefs were never actually yours? Maybe they were handed to you. Maybe they were forced upon you. Maybe they were created in a moment of fear, of stress, of survival. Isn't it fascinating how something that once kept you safe can now be the very thing holding you back? And as you begin to notice this, you begin to realize something powerful. You don't have to keep them. Because the same way you install them, you can uninstall them. Isn't it interesting how often people say things that, when you really think about it, don't quite make sense? I have to be strong. Have to? According to who? I can't express my emotions. Can't or won't. If I don't prove myself, I'm worthless. Really? Every single time? As you ask these questions, something happens. The belief wobbles. It weakens. The mind starts searching for proof. And finding none. Because when you truly look, when you truly ask, you realize that most of the rules you've lived by, they were never real. And as you begin to see through them, something else happens. You get to choose. And this is amazing. And the very thing that once felt like a weakness can suddenly become your greatest strength. Because what if being emotional wasn't weakness? What if it was depth, power, a connection to something deeper? What if needing approval wasn't a flaw, but an understanding? Because when you truly approve of yourself, when you know yourself, the need for external validation fades, it dissolves, and in its place, freedom. The freedom to express, to play, to be outrageous, to be fully unapologetically you. Because when you stop chasing praise, something shifts. Have you noticed? The funnier you become, the more effortless, the more magnetic, because now you're not performing, you're just being. And people can feel that, can't they? Because people, they don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. And maybe it's a bit like walking on sand. At first when you step, it feels uncertain. It shifts beneath you. It makes you question your balance. But the more you walk, the more you trust. The more you realize something important. You don't need the ground to be solid. Because balance doesn't come from the ground. It comes from you. And as you begin to trust yourself, as you begin to flow with the shifting sands, instead of fighting them, suddenly walking becomes easy, effortless. And I wonder, have you noticed how much easier life gets when you stop trying to control everything? Because the more you let go, the further you go. Isn't it funny? At the moment you stop trying to think your way through life, everything just clicks into place. Because the more you try to force control, the more you overthink, the more you panic, the more you disconnect. But the moment you slow down, the moment you breathe, the moment you listen, instead of trying to race ahead, something happens. Your mind clears. You see things differently. And suddenly things start to flow. And you know, don't you, that this shift has already begun. Because when you think about it, or maybe when you don't think about it, isn't it fascinating how much has already changed? And I wonder, what will you notice first?